Josh Hennig, Nick Earnshaw filling in for Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN. And Football at 4 is being brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort and the Gallery Bar. Booking games. The place to be during football season is inside Ocean Casino. Go to the Gallery. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. It is time for the one and only Adam Caplan. The Eagles' first preseason game of the 2025 season. And Adam, we can officially say the Philadelphia Eagles have not lost a game on the field since December 2024. How you doing today?
That's right. Good point, Josh. I didn't even think of it that way. But, you know, as preseason games go, as I said on X last night, if you like offense, you probably like this game. And it's pretty remarkable. It really was. And obviously the big story is Tanner McKee, who was just on fire. You know, by the way, the Bengals played 7 of their defensive starters, so it's not like they played a bunch of backups. Although I was surprised that McKee played into the third quarter, but he was simply incredible. But another thing, Josh, I wanted to mention before we go in everything is that the Eagles' offensive line, Tyler Steen only played a little bit, but the 4 backups, they got to feel really good. The Eagles' front office has got to feel really good about what they were able to accomplish last night. I'm pleasantly surprised that Drew Kendall held up, Brett Toth at left guard, Kendall Lamb at left tackle, Matt Pryor at right tackle, and Steen, who made a cameo. I mean, they did a phenomenal job against that defense the Bengals put out there.
Hey, Adam, it's Nick. You mentioned Tanner McKee. He was incredible last night. And you mentioned something in the postgame show on Inside the Birds last night, his mobility. Tell me what you noticed about that and what you saw from his game against the Bengals.
Nick, it's really interesting that if you looked at him in 2023, his rookie season, when he didn't really have a good training camp, his preseason was really good, and that got him on the roster. But he was like a statue. One of the knocks on him, because I know people are asking, well, why did this guy drop in the 6th round? Well, lack of pocket mobility. You know, today's game, they want guys who could run and throw. And he didn't put up big numbers. So, yeah, he had the big arm and a good size, so he's going to get drafted. But there wasn't really anything special about him. And I got to give, through all the coaches that they've had who've worked with him, Kevin Patullo, by the way, has probably worked with him more than anyone because, remember, he's coached quarterbacks. He's been an high-level offensive assistant. Now he's calling a play, so he knows him very well. I thought Patullo, by the way, would just want to drop in there, called a very good game. But on your point, Nick, the sneaky part about him is I'm certainly not going to call him a great athlete, but we saw it in training camp last year, and I was like, wow, what? We'll see if this is real. Then in preseason, he tore it up. He moved very well, and he played very well for one half against the Giants. And then you had this preseason game, which is best performance. It's not just the numbers, which were ridiculously great, 20 for 25 with 2 touchdowns. He did take 2 sacks. One of them clearly was not his fault. But he's so in control. He makes great decisions. He thinks quickly, throws with some anticipation, which means you get the ball to a spot, and you have the pass target go get the football. It was something else last night, guys. I mean, you know, it's just funny because when they drafted him, they didn't really know what they were getting. They knew the Eagles knew what he was as a quarterback, but they were probably not thinking that he'd be their backup quarterback for 2 or 3 years. But he's signed through 2026. I mean, this kid is pretty good. And if we went through the other 31 teams and their backup quarterbacks, he's certainly a top 5 backup quarterback. This kid's got a lot of ability.
Yeah, he looked really good last night, as well as some of the guys in the backfield as well, Shipley and Dillon. What did you notice about them? Shipley had that long run as well from the great block from Tyler Steen. Talk to me about what you noticed from those 2 guys.
Yeah, that was a seal block. Yeah, that's one he's got to be able to make. And Shipley's got that great speed. That's a run that A.J. Dillon's not going to make, although Dillon looked very good. We'll get to him in a minute. The one knock on Shipley, and you probably heard this, you could go to Inside the Birds, folks, if you want to hear a post-game show on pod, or you could hear or watch or listen on YouTube. What I did say, the one issue I have with Shipley is, because this is from scouting, he's not as strong on his lower body, and that showed up on those goal line carries. He's just not strong enough, and I would have liked to have seen Dillon get that goal line work. Of course, McKee wound up getting the tush push for the touchdown, but Shipley's more explosive than Dillon. But boy, Dillon caught some passes. One of them was really nice. He got shut down on one carry, but he had the first carry was 10 yards. He looked good. He answered the question, what would it look like If he had to get tackled, he's all the way back, no question about it. So let's say, guys, let's extrapolate here. What if Barkley couldn't play 1 or 2 games? Shipley is explosive. They could have a really interesting 2-man backfield.
Adam Caplan, NFL insider at Caplan NFL, joining us from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. Like, subscribe, and download wherever you get your podcasts. Adam, staying on the offensive side, let's talk about the receivers, because for as much praise as McKee has gotten over the last almost 24 hours, I thought that what we saw from Johnny Wilson and Ainias Smith was very, very encouraging to see these guys make legitimate progress. Because in my mind, Adam, and I don't know if it was the same for you, but my mind goes back to when the Eagles, when they drafted back in the day, Quez Watkins and John Hightower, those guys never evolved. They never progressed the way that Wilson and Smith are.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Johnny Wilson, right? So training camp has been uneven. And Jeff pointed this out because he was at the final 2 practices before this game. Wilson's come on a little bit, and what happened was, Josh, and the knock on Johnny Wilson is he's got to be more than a blocking receiver. They didn't draft him just to be able to block, which he's very good at. You're talking about a guy who's over 6'6". There was a play I pointed out before in our show when Mac McWilliams went up against him in training camp last week. It was actually last Sunday, and the ball was short from Kyle McCord, and Wilson just didn't make the effort. And I was like, this is not good. Now, ironically, he had a play like this last night. He made the effort, did a good job. He had a very good game. Obviously, the star of the game is Darius Cooper, who's got a great body for the receiver position. He's really built himself up. He's beefed up. He's over 200 pounds. He's 205 to 210. He snatches the ball. He looked fantastic. Colin Granton had some nice catches. Dotson did a good job. You mentioned Ainias Smith with a touchdown catch. Nice. And by the way, what a great punt return. He did a lot of that on his own. That was fantastic.
Adam, one more on the offensive side. We mentioned in passing about the offensive line. I was very impressed with Kendall. For a guy to get to the second level that many times consistently, it really showed you that, the Eagles, it's not just Stoutland University. They got a guy that they might have a legitimate backup center, and maybe we can avoid the NFC Championship game fiasco we had this past year.
Yeah, and you don't want Brett Toast to be that guy. Now, see, Kendall, it really should be a center, not a guard. He could play guard, but he's not built to play guard. So he's son of his dad, Pete Kendall, you might remember, for a couple teams in the NFL, long time guard center. So, this is a really good sign for him because there were questions physically whether he could handle it at this level, but he did a great job. This is one of those things where you go in thinking some things and you see what happens, and overall, I don't know what else you could say about the offense. By the way, and I know it's a small thing, Dorian Thompson-Robinson threw the ball pretty well. I really liked that 24-yarder where he threw with power. And then Kyle McCord just didn't look comfortable. He had the deflection. That was not a great pass. But, overall, the offense was fantastic. Really nothing to complain about. I don't know what else you could. And by the way, the Bengals played, I believe, 7 of the defensive starters. So you really can't complain that you can't say, they played a bunch of backups. That's not the case.
Adam, I want to switch gears to the defensive side of the ball and Ty Robinson, 2nd-round pick. Listen, Matt Rule has had a lot of really good things to say about him, his college head coach, former Temple coach as well. He had a sack last night. He looked really good. Could he surprise some people and fans this coming year and work his way into the rotation and be an important piece, maybe even later on in the season?
Well, Nick, here's the thing. They traded Thomas Booker, who is their top backup nose tackle. They're kind of light. Honestly, Byron Young didn't play in this game. He's got a minor injury. He's the only player, if you look at they have 5 backup D tackles. He's the only player to play in an NFL game. They used 61. Joe Evans was an undrafted free agent as the backup nose last night. Gabe Hall had a good game last night. He played well. This is a guy who's going to. I got to believe he's going to make the team. He's got great length. He's got his energy. He's doing a good job. And the kid Jacob Sykes has been around a little bit. So look, they're not. Yeah. So Ty Robinson, he could wind up being the first guy off the bench, Nick. To be honest with you, because there's really nobody else right now.
Yeah, he really played well last night. Another guy that had a pretty decent game was Patrick Johnson. He had a sack that was negated by the penalty, but he also deflected a pass that was intercepted. So what did you notice from Patrick Johnson, from last night's ball game?
Yeah, Patrick Johnson is really a special teams player only. He doesn't figure if he makes a team, to play on defense. However, they don't really have, like, Jalen Son is not developed as a pass rusher yet. I mean, he's very talented, a lot of upside, but he's not developed yet. Nolan Smith is coming back from a pretty significant injury, and I mean, he's going to be ready for the season. He's practicing, but he hasn't done it for a full season yet. Ojulari, has not had a great camp. He's playing a good coin. Josh Uche has looked good, not a great pass rusher. He's had one good year as a pass rusher. Powell Ryan is a rookie. Obo Okonkwo is there, and O'Shawn Mathis is a guy that's kind of flashed a little bit. And Patrick Johnson's had some really good moments in training camp, but yeah, he's number 48 for those who are scoring at home. The Eagles wound up cutting him. He was claimed off waivers by the Giants. The Eagles brought him back. He'll have a chance to make the team because he's a good special teams player, but that's one thing to look at is their pass rush. They have enough guys, but I don't know really who's their high-end pass rusher right now.
Adam, I think it was a Freudian slip by Nick Earnshaw there. Nick Earnshaw, Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill in the Sports Bash with 97.3 ESPN, because we've all been complaining about the cornerback situation. Ringo, Jackson both got cooked multiple times in the game last night. And people are like, oh, well, it's Jamar Chase. Well, some of that to me, Adam, looked like poor discipline, bad footwork. Like, these are guys who should be better than what we saw last night. It was very, very disappointing.
Yeah, and Ringo's got to recognize where he is on the field. But here's the thing, Josh. Well, yeah, he's going against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Well, guess what? Ringo's not competing for a backup job. He's competing to be a starter. So you got to bring your A level. The lower body stiffness showed up in this game a little bit. Stop and starting has not been good for Ringo. That's another issue. We pointed this out now for 3 years. People who ripped us, they obviously know that this is true if you even know anything about football. You can't just rely on length and speed at that position. You got to be able to transition better. And Josh, it hasn't happened. Look, it was really bad last training camp last year. After 1 week, it was over for him. Now, I'll say this about Ringo. He's had some moments of training camp, like some good practice, some not so good. Here's what I think is going to happen. Ja'Cory Bennett, who they traded for, let's see what happens this coming week and see how much work he gets, because he's the next guy up here.
Absolutely. Of course, the next Eagles preseason game next Saturday afternoon. Of course, every Eagles game here in your home for the Eagles in South Jersey on 97.3 ESPN. He's Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. Like, subscribe, and download wherever you get your podcast. Adam, appreciate you jumping on. Keep up the great work. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Guys, thank you. See ya.